All right, welcome to this masterclass. This is actually broken down into several modules based on the amounts of information that you need at each stage. And I want to make sure that you learn this in the right order. Okay, so the first things first, understanding what a customer journey is. The three stages of a customer journey are to begin with, a customer, before they've actually spent money with you, they are generally referred to as leads. So you'll have cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads. Okay, they reflect the degree to which you have nurtured their relationship with your brand, and how ready they are to become your clients, your consumers. So the first stage is discovery. All right, cold lead. The deal here is that this person is only interested in your brand, in what you're offering, in as much as they are curious. They're not quite sure what it is that you're doing, but they sort of kind of like what they see. The most basic examples of this is, let's say you've got your brick and mortar store. Somebody stops outside of your window to read one of the stickers on your glass, or to peer through at one of the products you have on display, and then they keep on going. Or they're scrolling through Facebook and they saw your ad, and they stopped and read everything you had to say in the copy section where all the text is. Generally speaking, they have no further interest in your brand other than, oh, this looks kind of interesting. I wonder what this is. Okay, this is interesting, whatever. The next stage, when they become warm, usually when they've become warm, it's because you asked them in the discovery section, when they were cold leads, you asked them to take an action. Watch a video you've put up, read a full article, click on a link, click on a button, and then they've become more aware of your brand. They understand what it is, the products you sell. Generally speaking, by the time somebody is in the warm bucket, let's call them lead buckets, okay? You have the cold lead bucket, you have the warm lead bucket, and you have the hot. By the time somebody's in the familiar one, in the warm bucket, they can also explain what it is that you do, sell, make to somebody else. And in doing so, can even potentially sell that concept to somebody. Generally speaking, they're also getting ready to buy from you. Now, the most people you'll ever come across, the majority of the people who you'll ever meet, or whoever meets your brand, most of them will be in discovery, okay? And generally speaking, they are highly unqualified to purchase from you. For example, I'm pretty sure at this point a lot of people are familiar with Victoria's Secret, but literally half of the population, all the men, are highly unqualified to be clients of what they sell, to be their customers, whereas women are qualified. Now, that's an example of demographic qualification, but it also has a lot to do with interest. So, generally speaking, by the time somebody's taken the time and the effort and made the effort to become familiar with your product, with your brand, they are self-qualifying, pre-qualifying themselves, because they are showing enough interest in your brand that you know, okay, this person is curious. This person opted into my email list. This person signed up for an event. This person asked for a coupon that I've offered as part of a marketing effort. Okay? The third lead bucket, the hot traffic, the hot leads, those are the ones who are already beginning to make a habit, or rather, you are forming a habit of being in their lives. They're ready to buy from you. They recognize your ads every time they see them, and they're like, oh yeah, those guys. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely interested in buying. Generally speaking, if you guys know anything about Facebook ads and you are aware of how Facebook retargeting works, when you go to somebody's website, you've made the step from being in the cold bucket into the warm bucket. The moment you land there, the Facebook pixel, which is a little nifty little bit of code that allows Facebook to see who's on your website, or rather on the website that you're visiting, will take a look at you and be like, oh, this person has an account on Facebook. And then the brand will say, okay, I want to show these ads, which are more designed for hot people, for people who are more familiar with us. Those ads will begin appearing in front of you in Facebook. That's an extremely basic explanation definition of remarketing, because the goal of this masterclass isn't to get into marketing methods, okay? Generally speaking, these leads are the ones who are most aware of you. They might actually have even bought once or twice Okay? Now, when I mentioned briefly there the thing about remarketing, what I mean by that is that each lead bucket needs a different level of communication with you. Okay? The end goal is to get them all to become super consumers down here. Now, this communication, and I mentioned over here the degree to which you've nurtured them, somebody who is barely curious about your brand, who is a cold lead, needs to know bottom line what it is that you do. They need to know if they are somebody. No, they need to know if you are somebody who is worth their time. Okay, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to time and attention. Generally speaking, the information you would give to these people to make them, or to these people over here, to make them take the step over to become warm, if you try and give them that same message to make them go from warm to hot, it's not going to work. Okay? So, for example, let's think of a coffee house briefly. Cold marketing is, we have coffee. We have the best coffee. Our coffee was voted #1, right, by X magazine. They see an ad of somebody buying coffee from you. They see an ad of how you make your coffee, and it's a picture or it's a video. Generally speaking, that's enough to make them go, okay, well, cool, right? And then they move over to warm, because you can say, for example, best coffee in your area. This is the best coffee in your community. Voted #1 coffee by other members of X town, X city, right? So let's say voted #1 coffee of Austin. If I were to show that ad to people who live in San Antonio, Texas, it'll be like, well, I mean, it's cool, but whatever. The moment I say, hey, this was voted, okay, so, right, everybody knows what cold is. If I say, this coffee isn't only the best, but it was voted #1 in Austin, Texas, and you happen to live in Austin, Texas, you're going to go, oh, whoa, okay, people like me, people who share my reality in the city of Austin liked it. Okay, now I'm really interested. Where is this place? Okay, how can I find out more? And then something interrupts them and they forget, right? And then you hit them with an ad that says, by the way, I know you're interested in this coffee, so here's a coupon to help you come into our store and redeem it for a really nice cup of coffee. If you had hit somebody up right off the bat with, hey, here's a coupon to get 10% off our coffee, and they're cold traffic, their response would have been, okay, let's say that your coffee costs $1. Their response would have been like, well, and you're offering them $25% coupon. Well, I mean, I guess that coffee is nice, but why am I going to spend 75 cents on that coffee? I don't really know it. I don't really know what's up. And then by the time they hear, and you say, here's a 25% coupon for the $1 coffee, they're going to go, hell yeah, that's really cool. I want to see that. I want it. Where can I click? I'm going to go redeem it right now, after work, before work. So it's all about the conversation, the levels of conversation that you have with them at each period, okay? Now, we're not really getting into this. I just want you to understand the differences between cold, warm, hot leads. Generally speaking, what sort of conversation you need to have with each one, how you approach them with your offers at each level. And I just want you to understand what's going on here, okay? Our end goal is to get to where they become super consumers. And I'll get to that at the end of the video. So basically, roughly 55% of the market is cold lead, is made up of cold leads all the time. If they know about you, roughly 55 people out of 100 are cold leads. And it's going to be very difficult for you to move them up from cold leads to warm leads, simply because it's the degree at which you have to convince them to take the micro step up. In fact, that's one of the terms in marketing. It's called micro commitments. So the amount of leverage that you need, and that's one of the reasons why they say it's 7 times more expensive to get a new client or a new customer than to retain an old customer, okay? It is more complicated. If you happen to have seen any of the work I've done with the Patron Foundry and the clients we have there, or with the sister company Alchemical Bot, you'll actually understand one of the ways that we go about reducing that amount of money that you have to spend on a new one, and also maximizing the amount of returns you get once they come in. Because once you have them in, the most important thing is to keep them in. And that's one of the things that we've worked with Alchemical Bot on. The next stage, 35 out of 100 people are going to be in the warm leads. Generally speaking, these are the ones who will stop and listen to you. If you walk outside of your business tomorrow morning and start talking about your coffee, or start talking about your donuts, or start talking about your spa, your massage treatments, you start talking about, let's say you run a children's party center, and you start talking about it, 35 out of 100 people who you make eye contact with, 35 of them will stop and give you like 5 seconds of their time, right? Where the other ones will have just walked past you, and whatever information you got to them while they were walking past you, that's what they got, okay? That's cold traffic. 10% or less of your market who knows about you, the market aware of you, are hot leads. They're the ones who will stop and go, okay, I'll go in and take a look. I'll give it a try. And they might not do so right then and there, because in my example of you going out and just ranting and raving like a madman or madwoman outside of your establishment, that's going to be, I mean, there you're catching people when they're actively doing something else. But most of these 10% of these 10 people will come back and check it out later. All right? So the end goal here is for you to generate super consumers, because super consumers can make up roughly 20 to 25% of your consumer base, and yet represent 60 to 80% of your monthly revenue. Now, the term super consumer was coined by a gentleman called Eddie Yoon. He wrote a book called Super Consumers, and basically what the in a nutshell, what this is about is simply, of your 100 customers that you have, 25 of them have developed an emotional relationship with your brand. They don't buy your products. They hire your products to resolve an issue. So, for example, let's take a look at Starbucks right now, because I love talking about Starbucks when it comes to super consumers, because it's stereotypically a fact now that, you know, it's even a stereotype that white girls love Starbucks, and like it's an accessory for them. Keyword, accessory for them. Okay? Now, what this means is you have the people who are, you know, they're consumers of Starbucks, and they go in because they enjoy the coffee every now and then, or they like the specialties, or pumpkin spice lattes have come out and they go and get them. In my case, I feel like those things melt my teeth with the amount of sugar. But point is, you will have a select few who literally have Starbucks themed phone cases. Everywhere you see them walking in public, they are holding a Starbucks coffee cup. These are the people who need to buy from Starbucks, although Walmart has super consumers too. These are the people, and it happens with with men as well as women. I mean, don't get caught up in the whole stereotype. But these are people for whom holding a cup of Starbucks is part of their identity. They have an emotional need to purchase a Starbucks cup of coffee, and that satisfies a necessity inside their psyche. All right? And that's one of the cool things about developing loyalty programs, using chatbots, is that it allows you to actually drill down into who's consuming from you and find those super consumers and then nurture them like there's no tomorrow, and not only get massive amounts of return from creating super consumers, but also learning to understand your market. Because as much as we like to make fun of these men and women who walk around with Starbucks coffees all the time, they are extraordinarily valuable to Starbucks because they will be honest with Starbucks about what they like and what they don't like. They are not going to be nice. They're not going to be polite. They're going to, completely straightforward and with complete transparency, inform Starbucks, hey, I really like this, do it again. Hey, I did not like this, don't do it again. Here, when I was in Mexico for a period, they had horchata coffee. And it wasn't even like coffee, it was like a frappe. And horchata is it's like a milk made out of rice. And it's actually really good. But Starbucks tried it, and all the super consumers were like, please don't ever do this again. And within 3 weeks of them having brought it out, it was gone. because super consumers didn't buy it. Now, Starbucks knew who was a super consumer because when super consumers arrived with their membership cards, Starbucks would track who was buying what with their loyalty cards. That's how they were able to data mine the opinion of their super consumers. Now, the third most important aspect of super consumers, and this is why ultimately, like, I get that they make up 60 to 80% of your income. I get that they allow you to do market research for literally nothing. Like, you can do market research with super consumers, and they will actively give you the information for free. They won't ask you for anything. You don't even have to go spend thousands of dollars with Nielsen or one of these data mining companies to create a focus group. The third most important reason to have a super consumers and to know who they are, and this is more important than the others, is because super consumers all hang out together. It wasn't so visible before as it is now, but for example, Facebook groups are called super geos. A super geo is where all the super consumers go hang out. You can find a Facebook group for literally any niche, any industry out there. The most common one I can give you right now that will it'll give you the aha moment in case you haven't had it, are cats. Cat groups on Facebook are super geos full of super consumers of cat content, cat and whatnot. But the cool thing here is that if one super consumer finds you and gets to know your product and becomes a super consumer of yours, that person will waste zero time to go on Facebook, to go on WhatsApp, to go on Facebook Messenger, to go to Instagram and talk about you to other potential super consumers. Super consumers grow exponentially because of how they talk to each other. And that is super important, and that's one of the most important things that I need you to understand about this whole concept. The end goal of every customer journey is to get them to turn into super consumers. Now, that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to go over the application of these concepts, and I'm going to give you some basic tidbits on how to approach leads in the 3 different sections, and then how to talk to super consumers. It's not that complicated, and I imagine it's actually going to be a shorter video than this. And with this video, we've covered 25% of this masterclass.